Thank you. Good afternoon, and it's my privilege to welcome everybody to the Thursday, October 23rd, 2025 open meeting of the Guelph Police Service Board. I'd like to start by welcoming everybody and welcoming our newest Guelph Service Board member. This is Mr. Michael Plate, who joins the board as the provincial nominee. Mr. Plate was officially sworn in as a member of the board on October 15. Calling Guelph home for the past 15 years, Michael Plate is a retired OPP officer with over 30 years of policing experience and a commitment to public service. During his tenure with the OPP, he has served primarily in frontline law enforcement, policy, and training and development. He spent several years working at the Guelph OPP detachment before moving to the newly created Wellington County OPP. Working in both rural and urban centers strengthened his communication skills and emphasized the importance of inclusivity, patience, flexibility, and professionalism when engaging with the public to ensure they felt heard and understood. For more than 2 decades, Mr. Plate dedicated his career to the provincial field coordinator combating impaired driving to keep Ontario roads safe. He collaborated with the Ministry of the Solicitor General and the Ministry of the Attorney General, the Canadian Alcohol Test Committee, and the Centers of Forensic Science to modernize impaired driver training and develop quality assurance systems to help tighten the law on impaired driving. Mr. Plate is a proud member of the Guelph community, supporting local events like the Terry Fox Run and the Run for the Cure, and is currently Vice President of the Guelph Ringette Society. And I'd also like to have us note that Mayor Guthrie celebrated a milestone birthday this week. Won't say which milestone it is, but so at that point, I'm going to call us to order with our territorial acknowledgement. As we gather, let us take time to reflect on our privilege to live and work in Guelph, a city built over rich Indigenous histories. We are guests here, and we should reflect upon the responsibility to care for this land, the people who live here today, and the generations to come. If our actions today can move us towards reconciliation, we should take pause and make those decisions with intention and gratitude. This place we call Guelph has served as the traditional land and a place of refuge for many peoples over time, but more specifically the Attawandarunk and the Haudenosaunee. This land is held as the treaty lands and territory with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Guelph lies directly adjacent to the Haldimand Tract and is part of the long-established traditional hunting ground of the Six Nations of the Grand River. Many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people have come from across Turtle Island and call Guelph home today. Okay, the first item, I'd like to ask if there's any conflicts of pecuniary or conflicts of interest or pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflicts of Interest Act. Okay, hearing none, I'll declare that closed. And I'm going to call on Mayor Guthrie and Vice Chair Sharma with respect to the closed session motions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, it's moved by myself and Vice Chair Sharma that out of the community account that $2,000 be forwarded to Crime Stoppers Guelph Wellington for their upcoming video production on helping to address retail theft within our communities. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? I declare that carried. Okay. Okay, at this point, I would need a mover and a seconder to approve our agenda. If I can get a mover. Moved by Mayor Guthrie, seconded by Councillor Alt. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, at this point, we're going to need to move for a seconder for our consent agenda. If there's any items that are on the consent agenda that a member would like to pull out for further discussion, if we can do that, and we can, now is your time. Otherwise, we can just deal with it as a consent agenda. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Mayor Guthrie, seconded by Councillor Ault. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Okay, our first item on the discussion agenda is board member remuneration. And I think you've seen in the package, we have had our assistant, Ms. LaSalle, gathered data from other police services boards that are the same boards that the city uses to rank itself against for their remuneration and other things that they deem as the comparators. And we have done an analysis and applied. Mayor Guthrie?
No, it's okay. I was just going to move the recommendation. You keep talking, but I'm happy to move the recommendation. Yeah.
Okay, so based on that analysis and applying the city's compensation model, which is to compensate at the 55th percentile of the comparator group, the motion before is that effective January 1st, 2026, the Guelph Police Service Board remuneration be adjusted to $10,000 per annum for the chair, $7,250 per annum for the vice chair, and $6,750 per annum for the provincial or municipal appointee who does not serve as a chair or vice chair. And that pursuant to city council policy, that the mayor and the city councillor still not receive compensation. Can I have a mover of that motion? Moved by Councillor Ault, seconded by Mayor Guthrie. All in favor? Opposed? I declare that carried. Thank you. Our next item is the budget confirmation. So, Chief Kobe, if I can turn that item over to you to lead the discussion.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Now, I'm going to share my screen here in a second so I can go through the slide presentation. Just the way my screens are set up, though, I can't see you. I can see Deputy Chief Gill. So maybe, Steve, if there's a question, can you just maybe raise your hand so I'll know to stop midway? Otherwise, I'll just flow through, Mr. Chair, if that works.
That's agreed.
Okay. So if you want to, there, can you guys see that first slide there?
Yes.
Perfect. Sorry, Mr. Chair, there's a lot of screens here. So, all right. Thank you so much, everybody. As we have discussed many times in the last few years, this is our third year of our multi-year budget. I will touch on the details moving forward, but I just wanted to, as we begin the presentation, before we get into all the different slides, I wanted to just provide a highlight with respect to the 2026 FTE growth will remain unchanged based on our approved multi-year budget. So as we've talked many times before, our goal has been to provide the community with a long-term growth plan. And so our original requirement in the third year of the multi-year budget was going to be an FTE growth of 6 sworn and 2 civilian members. You'll learn as we go through these slides, this is going to include some new urgent priorities. And you'll also note that while the FTE growth remains the same as it was for the last several years, anticipated for 2026. The budget increase, the vast majority of that is a function of the newly ratified contract between our Guelph Police Association and our board. Over the last several years, I think it's important to note the 2026 year budget has essentially been, I would suggest, 3 or 4 years in the making. In 2022, we engaged KPMG because we wanted to have them conduct a thorough analysis, taking into consideration the growth of our community, the needs of our community, as well as the workload analysis conducted within the Guelph Police Service. And I think it's important to also highlight that KPMG brought a very comprehensive knowledge of our city to this study. In the year or so before we engaged KPMG, they had completed a very comprehensive review of the city of Guelph as a whole with respect to a service rationalization review. As well as that, for a number of years, they have completed both our consolidated, our audited financial statements for both us and the city of Guelph. Mr. Bruce Peaver, the partner who led the city's review, led our review. And I think that was important because it gave them a really broad, comprehensive understanding of not only the Guelph Police Service, but the city of Guelph. The goal was to come up with a long-term growth plan that took into consideration the needs of our community, as well as affordability considerations and a number of other things. You'll learn, as we've discussed moving forward in a number of meetings previous, we've made a lot of significant progress, a lot of ROI, and the investments that we have been making are in fact critical to the safety of our citizens. One of the things we talked about a lot in 2023, in the fall of 23, was that we wanted to make sure, for a lot of reasons, the point-in-time recommendations that were provided by KPMG, we wanted to phase those in over the course of the multi-year budget. This allowed us to do a number of things. It allowed us to align our multi-year budget with our strategic plan. It allowed us to ensure that the consultations that we did with our community, that included the consultations and surveys for our strategic plan, the consultations as the city was developing the multi-year budget. We were able to go to all of our budget town halls. It really allowed us to align both our strategic plan with our long-term budgeting and the needs of the community. One of the things that we heard loud and clear from the community was that they want to feel safe. They want to have appropriate policing, but they also wanted us to be mindful of the affordability of our services. And so we've worked hard to incorporate all of those things moving forward. To give the board a frame of reference, the FTE growth for 2026 essentially represents a 2% FTE growth. So, for example, if we were an organization of 100 people this year, next year we will be an organization of 102. Now, I know we're an organization of 350, but just to give a frame of reference, that's what a 2% growth rate looks like. These are a couple of graphs that I think we've talked a number of times before, but you'll see on the blue line represents the population of our city. We continue to experience unprecedented growth in our history. And in 2024, we reached approximately 159,000 residents. What I'd like to point out for the board is that that does not include our university population. So I would argue that we are policing closer to 180,000 versus 159,000. The red line represents the number of police officers we have per 100,000 residents. So you can see back in 2011 where we were, we had made some significant gains. Our reality is, as we've staged in our growth, we simply can't keep up growth-wise as an organization to the growth of the city. And that's just, I think we'll always be trying to manage those two growth curves. You'll also note we're on pace this year to hit just under 90,000 calls for service, up from about 72,000 in 2020. So we've talked about this many times before. That's essentially a 19% increase in calls between 2020 and 2025. I wanted to show this slide, and you'll note this slide appears twice in the package. We've talked a lot about the importance of affordability and being mindful of the investment our community makes in policing. This represents our city's investment in policing as a percentage of the overall city budget from 2020 to 2024. And you'll note that in 2020, we were 11.5% of our city's overall budget, and that number has come down consistently. Last year, we were 11.2%. And I know it sounds 0.3% doesn't sound like a lot, but in 2024, our overall budget was just under 600 million. So 0.3 of that is approximately $1.6 million. So we have been trying to be very mindful of our investment in policing, and that had that line just stayed level at 11.5, I think that would have been a fairly considerable difference between where we are today. You've seen this slide many times, and I think ultimately our citizens want to feel safe. And we have made reference to this many times before. For a very significant number of years, our community was the first or second safest census metropolitan area in the country. Between 2013 and 2018, as you can see there, we went from 2nd to 19th. And we have talked about this metric numerous times before, but with the support of you, our council, and our community, we have consistently navigated our way back to from 19th to 6th. And I've stated this numerous times before, our goal is to be number one, to be the healthiest and safest community in the country. And I think this demonstrates how we have been making very steady progress in relation to that. I want to start off, we've talked a great deal about some very important initiatives in the last several years. And as we're mindful of the investment our citizens make, the affordability that we're trying to achieve, we also have to be mindful of the importance involved in addressing really important public safety issues. And before I start on this update, I want to acknowledge your support, but also the leadership of our council, who in the fall of 2023 unanimously declared intimate partner violence an epidemic in our city. And I think that was really an important catalyst, both as a service in our community, to make sure that we really understood this issue, to make sure we work together with our city partners, and to make sure we made a really important effort to demonstrate our commitment to this. And Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to highlight your support in making sure that we had the resources to onboard this team as quickly as possible. What you see here, this team has literally been built in the last year. Since January 1st of 2025, so less than a year, this team has delivered tremendous results. More than 65 high-risk compliance checks. They've developed an early intimate partner violence intervention program where they can provide proactive support to those in need. We have demonstrated, we've gone to more than 50 human trafficking calls for service. Many of these are proactive abilities that we now have to safeguard individuals and youth at risk, an ability we wouldn't have had even a year ago. Since January, we've reached out to more than 500 members of this community to have proactive education in relation to both intimate partner violence and human trafficking. And we're very grateful for the support of both our Catholic and public boards. We will be attending a professional development day for the Wellington Catholic District School Board, where we'll have an opportunity to speak with up to 1,000 of their staff to make sure they have proactive education and information to support their school community, as well as we look forward to working with the Upper Grand District School Board to speak with parent councils and families on how we can proactively support our youth, our schools, and our families to make sure that we are providing the greatest support possible to victims and survivors of this very, very devastating crime, but also making sure offenders are held accountable. I also want to highlight our downtown safety initiative. This was something that I believe over the last several years, but specifically in the last year, we've worked hard to demonstrate our commitment to being mindful of the fact that the heart of any community is our downtown. We have demonstrated consistent outreach, reduced emergencies, and increased support. Just year to date, our team, Kim and Mark, have attended to over 330 calls for service and referred over 150 people to community supports. I also think it's important to note that as part of our multi-year budget, we made a commitment out of reserves to fund a dedicated impact worker to work closely with our downtown team. Kim and Mark have, I would suggest, had a transformational impact on the service we can provide to our downtown, specifically many of our vulnerable, not just crisis response, but proactive education, proactive support to establish better care paths. Someone who's there, Kim can provide the right care to the right people at the right time. And again, Mr. Mayor, I want to highlight when we built our multi-year budget, it was actually your motion supported by the board that we would sponsor Kim in that role. And that role has made a very, very big difference. Moving on, some of the return on investment. Our offices have addressed open drug use and prioritized the health-based approach. So over 115 arrests have been made so far. And in each of those cases, we want to provide those who are struggling with addictions with the best possible care, but we will also demonstrate our commitment to public safety and the safety of our downtown to make sure it remains safe and welcoming for all. Our officers in general have had over 800 proactive initiatives and attended community events. As a whole, and I think the board has heard me say this before, 5 years ago, we attended to approximately 300 proactive community engagements. Last year, that number was well over 3,000. So these are some of the areas when we invest, we can really achieve a return on that investment for our citizens. Our drug unit, again, you heard from Ben last meeting. In the past 18 months, I would suggest these statistics speak for themselves. 180 search warrants, record amounts of drugs taken off the streets of our community. These are the kind of initiatives that we will continue to demonstrate the return on that investment for our community, as is our break, enter, and auto theft team. Moving forward, so within the FTE growth envelope that we have been aiming at for 2026 for the last several years, we're going to have some urgent investments that have to be made. So our justice partners right now, we're working very hard to address a backlog of cases within the court system. We have a responsibility to ensure the safety of our citizens, our courts, our judges, our crowns, our defense attorneys. So we're going to have a significant investment that was not originally anticipated or to provide support to our justice partners. We are also, our planned investment is going to include really increasing our community resource officer program. So we've talked a lot about anticipated support to our school boards that I anticipate will increase over the coming year. Our CROs maintain active collaboration with our community and really contribute to positive initiatives and engagement with our citizens. A perfect example of this is what we've achieved in the downtown. And I am often asked, does the downtown get more policing than it should? And I would say no. The downtown gets the support that they told us they need. What we really, really want to do is start to extend and increase that level of care to other neighborhoods, because we have many other neighborhoods that would like to have additional support. That cross-functional team will help us support things like road safety and other citywide engagement. I know there's been a lot of conversations in recent weeks about road safety. The support that those CROs provide, we will endeavor to really patrol school zones, provide the level of support needed. But again, we're doing all of this within the existing growth package. So if you can imagine a 2% FTE growth, while trying to deal with community growth that is just planned community growth and then other emerging priorities. We will constantly, those curves that we talked about, our FTE growth with our community growth, they're going to continue to, it's going to continue to be a struggle to try to address emerging priorities with this staged in plan that we've established. I know you've read the budget package, and I know Sarah's online. We can go through the board report for more specific questions when I'm done this presentation. You'll note that the vast majority of the differential is the commitment with respect to the new ratified collective bargaining agreement. In addition, you'll see the tax rate impact. The difference between the original projected amount is 0.6 on the tax rate. And then I'm going to come back to this slide for a second because I think it's important to note we are very mindful of the investments our community makes in policing, but we are really demonstrating our commitment to be mindful of the affordability while achieving a lot of very, very significant results for our citizens. In addition to the specific initiatives outlined, we've come a long way from 19th to 6th, and we've done that using a decreasing proportionately less of the overall city budget. And I think that's worth noting and a credit to our members, but also your support and that of council. In summary, as I said, our 2026 FTE growth remains unchanged from what you saw before you a couple of years ago. We will have to do our best to address new priorities with this already established growth number. It is going to be aligned with our strategic plan. We will always be balancing risks and affordability, and I know I've said this many times before. I know within the board package, there's a number of attachments, and I'm more than happy to go through those if you want me to. Whether it be our strat plan, our 2 KPMG reports, the original staffing and service delivery review, and the second benchmarking data review. The themes remain pretty consistent though. The original review had demonstrated that the workload analysis showed that we had the smallest number of active officers in the fastest growing city with the greatest number of files. The second benchmarking review the year later, I would say, prioritized again the reasonableness of the growth package, and that we will always be struggling really to support the community growth and service growth in a way that's safe and sustainable for our members, but still providing service that our community wants and deserves. And with that, that is the end of my presentation, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then give the board a chance to ask any questions. And I just want to make sure I've stopped sharing my screen. Are we good?
You have.
Okay.
Mayor Guthrie, I saw your hand up first.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and through you. Thank you very much for the presentation. And I had a quick question off the top, just about the resourcing that went into the impact worker, the mental health worker that you mentioned, that's dedicated to our downtown core and is a partner with one of the uniformed officers that has been working in that area the last couple of years. The police board did make a commitment to fund that for a few years, but out of reserves. And I'm just, we've had reports and we've had communication and even presentations, I believe, through from Kim and officers in regards to the impact that's having, no pun intended, the impact that's having in the downtown core, which is all positive. I was just wondering through you, Mr. Chair, to the chief or to anybody else, how would you feel about, I have a 2-part question. How would you feel about taking that out of continuing to pay out of reserves so that the reserves are meant for the other policing issues that a police reserve would normally be used for? And the second one is, do you think there's any validity in having a second position like that for our service?
Thank you for that, and through you, Mr. Chair. So as recently as yesterday, I had a great discussion with Ms. Fishburne, the Executive Director of CMHA, and we talked about, first and foremost, how effective this program has been. Mark and Kim have really had an opportunity to proactively support folks and really create great relationships and care paths for folks. I absolutely think if we could move that into base and demonstrate to our community our long-term support. And one of the really important discussions Helen and I have had many times is just how the need is increasing each year. So I would say yes. We have approximately $114,000 that would have to go to base. And I would say would be an addition that would have to go to base for 2026. And without a doubt, we have both the work and the member support to onboard a second impact worker. If the board made the choice to make that addition to base as well, then certainly there would be, there's certainly the need for that.
Okay, thank you. And as a follow-up through you, Mr. Chair, the need if we were to go to a second position, and by the way, if anyone's listening, we don't just have one right now. There is actually quite a few, but there are some gaps in some of the funding from other levels of government in regards to the area, which is why I'm bringing it up now. Would an additional resource, do you think, be complementary to the downtown specifically, or would an additional resource be used even within and with outside of the downtown core if that was added by the police board?
Yeah, I would think it would do both. So I think it would certainly, there'd be some gaps right now where Kim and Mark can't possibly be everywhere all the time. So that position could support the downtown, but could also provide support to other parts of our community if there's folks living in encampments or other folks struggling. And that would be a targeted, proactive kind of support. We have, as you referenced, our dedicated impact team who support members in real time going to crisis situations. But if we had another resource that could proactively engage and work to build proactive relationships, that is sustainable funding for our CMHA partners to know they have that built into base, it would be an excellent complement. And in fact, in addition to what Mark and Kim already do.
Okay. Thank you. I know some of that was thrown at you at last minute, so I appreciate that answer. And then beyond that, I just wanted to recognize that you mentioned about the court armed officers or uniformed officers that are now, that's a requirement from the province now, correct?
Yeah, we've recently received a request from the province after, in response to needs that they have clearly identified to ensure their safety. So we have a legislated response to ensure safety and a very recent request from MEG that should include a sworn officer presence in all courts. Now I want to make sure I got that right. So Daryl, Steve, I've got that right there.
You do. You have the gist of it.
Okay. With that, Mr. Chair, I think, for sake of the discussion, I'll leave my comments till later because I know we're kind of doing questions only right now, but I'm happy to move the recommendations that are in front of us. And I'd like to make a separate motion for the board's consideration that we would move the funded FTE currently from reserve funding into the base budget at an impact of $114,000. And that we would also fund a second position in regards to this, again, for an additional $114,000. So the total impact would be 228. I'm pretty good at that simple math, as an additional to the budget from the police board moving forward. I'm hoping, I think Councillor Alt might be willing to second that. So, and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay, and then can I know, so we have Sarah on the line, so I just want to make sure, there may have been for example, increases already built into the CMHA funding envelope. So I just want to get from Sarah to get you a proper number. Sarah, do you want to provide us kind of your thoughts with respect to, because if we're going to do it over the long term, just so, just a good budgeting number.
Sure. So for the existing worker, Chief, it's 114,400, and in 2027 that increased to 116,400. Just a reminder for when we onboard these workers, there are some one-time costs. So I would say the initial year you're probably looking around 120,000. We haven't exactly got that from CMHA, but I suspect that would be roughly a budget that could be worked within, if that's helpful at all.
Yes, maybe as we continue the conversation, maybe Sarah, through you, Mr. Chair, maybe you could just help with the wording that would be appropriate for both the 2026 impacts of moving one out of reserve and then the extra FTE in that position. Sure. And then as we get through the rest of the questions, you can maybe jump back on to give the proper wording for that extra motion I'd like to table, okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Alt.
First of all, thank you very much to both Ms. Burton and Chief Kobe for insisting on accurate numbers. I think that's quite important. But mostly, I think what I'd like to stress, a statement was made by Chief Kobe that the impact workers could assist with those who are perhaps in encampments and otherwise marginalized. I don't think that it should be lost that in the assistance of those who are marginalized and in encampments, that is a positive benefit to the community as a whole. And Chief Kobe, I don't know whether you want to comment on that, but I don't want it to be lost for the community that this is something that goes far beyond assisting anybody in an encampment or on the street. This is something that is net positive, beneficial to everyone.
Yes, and through you, and I think one of the easiest ways, there's nobody that doesn't know Kim and Mark. If I say the name, like everybody knows Mark O'Connell. I think Mark O'Connell is a foundational member of this service and this city. And I think that's a testament to just how integrated both he and Kim have become in supporting so many people in the downtown and well beyond.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments related to this? Either motions, I guess we have before us today. Okay, in that case, I guess I'm going to call the vote.
I think Mr. Mayor might have a question. I thought I saw his hand. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Chair, but I'm pretty sure Mr. Mayor had a comment.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. And maybe what we could do is you could call the vote, Mr. Chair, on the main motion, and then we could wait to hear from Sarah on the correct wording on the secondary motion that I tabled in regards to the impact workers. But yeah, I just wanted to comment just very quickly. I thought the presentation today was very good, and for those that could wade through the presentation like you did, Chief, it just lays out in simple terms, in my view, what has occurred, what we're up against, and what the reality is, and for the budget. And to me, it's a lot of it is it's external, right? Like it's the province requesting armed officers and uniform officers in the court system. It's the province now saying that we have to have officers in schools. It's the collective agreement that we want to honor and adhere to with our service that's just been ratified. You know, just those three things alone are things that they cannot be they can't be ignored. It is the reality of what they are. And I think the fact that you have stated year over year over the entirety of the multi-year budget, even though every year we have that option of confirmation and some zigs and zags and the changes we could potentially do. You have continued to try to keep affordability in mind as we've been moving forward. And I think that the service the residents of Guelph get is fantastic from the service that's being provided. And to do that service, it requires the investments that are there. It's just the reality on the ground. So I do want to just say that if it's the will of the board, if we do help in supporting the recommendation of the extra impact workers, we are going to be one of the only ones really that are doing this. We are using police funds through a police budget to help on the partnership side of mental health. And when we were doing it just for the one, I had many other cities and mayors talk, and I don't know if you did, Gord, or the senior leadership team on your end of it, but on my end of it as the mayor, people were wide-eyed. They were like, "You're using police funds to help with mental health?" Yes. And I don't mind doing that more, but I just want to say, why are we doing that? Because the province is not fulfilling that role that mayors have been asking for several years. Several years. We've been asking for that help. And so it's important for, I think our community would understand to why we would want to provide that extra investment. But I just want to say, again, it's sort of either underfunding or downloading from the province that starts to impact things that are happening at police board levels and other boards and cities. And that's playing out in front of us today. Although I do support 100% where we're going with this budget. So thank you very much for how you presented it. And I appreciate the conversation.
Any other questions or comments?
I suspect Sarah has some wording for the mayor's motion.
So I'm good with numbers, not with motions. Can we amend the first recommendation? So can we approve it as amended to include $235,000 in 2026 and $239,000 in 2027 for, like, can we say something around for CMHA impact workers? I don't know, Leslie might be better at me than this. Do you know where I'm going? Like, just amend that first recommendation to add those two numbers specifically for impact related funding.
Should we deal with this as an amendment rather than a separate motion? Is that?
Yeah, it's probably better as an amendment.
It's probably cleaner.
Yeah.
Councillor Alt, you.
That the move that the budget be amended, 2026 budget be amended by 226,000. Did I hear? I lost the numbers. I apologize.
230.
I'm not good at the numbers.
235,000.
$235,000. An increase in $235,000 for the for the inclusion of the impact worker in the base budget.
Yes, and 2027 would be 239.
Yeah, that's good. That makes sense to me. Yeah.
Okay, and a seconder to the amendment.
Mayor Guthrie actually moved it. I'll second it. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Doesn't matter, Phil. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, then all in favor? Opposed? Carried. And our next motion is with respect to the capital budgets in the amounts of $4,434,300 for 2026 and $6,574,100 in 2027. We have a motion.
Mr. Chair, if I could just do a point of order just to help. I actually had already moved the entirety of all of those recommendations.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and so they're already all tabled by myself and Councillor Alt. And then we did the amendment of myself and Councillor Alt for the main part at the top. That amendment has now passed. So now I would think you would be able to call the vote on the motion as amended, which is all of them.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. All in favor?
Okay.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Next item is the Chief's monthly report. I'm calling you Chief Kobe for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one item that I'll touch on, and I'm going to ask that Inspector Goody join us for this one. I just wanted to give the board a high-level update in relation to our homecoming that happened a couple of weeks ago. So, Andrew, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief, and to the board for this opportunity to update you on our recent homecoming events. To provide some context, homecoming took place back on Saturday, October 4th. The university was the only university hosting a homecoming event on the state, with other universities aligning their events on different weekends. Based on previous years and the event's growing popularity, a very large crowd was expected. Last year, we saw upwards of 8,000 people in attendance, and this operation was planned for an increase to that number. The development of our operational plan included our other emergency service providers, and we are very thankful for the great working relationship with these organizations and the University of Guelph, as they all contributed to an overall successful event. Our operational plan saw resources deployed over several phases throughout the day and in various capacities. The football game, for example, had over 8,000 attendees, and our officers were there to assist and ensure public safety. At the same time, we had several enforcement teams out and about in the lead up to Chancellor's Way. These members laid over 90 charges under the Liquor License Act, Highway Traffic Act, and other offenses. And then we ultimately had Chancellor's Way, which was strictly a crowd management situation, giving priority to public safety. For this plan to be successful, over 80 additional sworn and civilian resources were brought in to assist with just this event. At its peak, the crowd surged to over 10,000 people, spilling into neighboring business parking lots like Walmart and Metro and other residential areas. Despite the size and complexity of the event, crowd behavior was generally positive, with only one significant incident requiring police and paramedic intervention. This involved a suspect in the crowd who bear sprayed several individuals. These victims were ultimately located by the police and treated by paramedics. The success of this event highlights the effectiveness of the operational planning put in at the front end. By working collaboratively and leveraging our strong community partnerships, we not only addressed logistical challenges, but also ensured a safe and well-organized homecoming experience for all. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to all our members for their exceptional dedication and professionalism during this year's homecoming event. Their hard work, teamwork, and commitment to service played a vital role in the event's overall success and in ensuring safety for our community. And pending any questions, Chief, that would be a brief update.
Thanks, Andrew. And I just have one more closing item, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Chief. Yes.
Perfect. I just wanted to, so I had the opportunity to attend this weekend to the installation of President Rennie Van Acker, the new president of the University of Guelph. And I just wanted to, on behalf of our service, we wanted to congratulate and welcome him to the role. The University of Guelph is an incredibly important part of our city, and we're grateful for the excellent relationship we have with President Van Acker and his team. We look forward to working together towards our shared goals of supporting the safety and improving the lives of all of our residents. And I just wanted to really congratulate President Van Acker and give him and the university our thanks for everything they do for the city. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Now I'd ask if there's any new business. Hearing none, I'll declare that closed. Our next open meeting is going to be held on Thursday, November 20th at 2:30 p.m. via Teams and live streamed on YouTube. And can I please have a mover and a seconder to adjourn? Moved by Councillor Alt, seconded by Vice Chair Sharma. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.